Hey everybody, we're back for another episode of the Shit Talking Podcast. I'm your co-host Christina.
And I'm Robin.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us again today. So today's topic is going to be friend breakups. Everybody talks about boyfriends and love breakups, but we never really talk about other kinds of breakups.
I actually think that friend breakups are harder. I think a romantic breakup, it's kind of like, it's par for the course. People know that it happens sometimes. But I think a friend breakup can be pretty tough because how do you just tell somebody you don't want to be friends with them anymore?
That's the thing. That's what we're going to talk about today is just this topic in general, but when to recognize that it might be time to actually have a friend breakup and how to do it. Not that we're authorities on the subject or anything, but I know I've had to do it. And I'm going to hear your story if you've ever had to do it.
I want to hear yours first. I want to see how you went about it. And then I can tell you my dirty friend breakup confession.
Oh, another confession. I can't wait. Yeah. So I first want to say that I think it's a hard subject because I don't think we all really spend a lot of time thinking about the friend breakups because we focus on when you're in a relationship with someone, a romantic relationship, there may come a time when you're thinking, I think maybe I just need to break up with this person. And I think the reason we contemplate those relationships and those breakups and not other kinds of breakups is because most of us are comfortable being in a romantic relationship with one person, right? Mm-hmm. So you're doing it to the exclusivity of everyone else. But when you have friends, you can have a lot of friends. So if you've got one or two in particular that, irritate you or whatever, it's easy to kind of just brush that aside and not really consider whether you need to break up with them, right?
No, I 100% agree with you. I think that if we had like 7 or 8 boyfriends, you probably wouldn't break up with any of them, right? Because you're all right, well, like this boyfriend kind of sucks, but I have this other boyfriend that doesn't suck. So I'm not going to really worry about the fact that this boyfriend is not really serving me, that this relationship isn't serving me. I think it's the same thing with friends. We have so many of them. I mean, if you're lucky, you have so many of them that, it's really easy to have a friend relationship that just isn't serving you anymore. And you just disregard it. You just don't really face it head on.
I think as I've gotten older, though, I've really been more careful about who I have in my environment. And when I say careful, I mean deliberate. Like in the past, I was the way I just described. I would have these people kind of come and go from my life, acquaintances, friends. And if something wasn't working out or I wasn't getting along with somebody, we would just sort of naturally distance. But they wouldn't be gone completely.
Yeah.
But then as I've gotten older, I've been more deliberate about who do I let in my universe, because I've learned that the people that we do have around us, they really influence us in profound ways, even if we're not aware of it. And if I start to feel like there's this person that I'm letting into my universe that is toxic, I just don't feel good when I'm around them, or they seem to be hypercritical of me. They're not supportive of my goals. If there's something negative that I'm getting out of that relationship and I can't really identify what positive I'm getting out of it, I do have a tendency now in my life to think, what am I doing here? Why is this person around?
So what if, playing devil's advocate, what if you're not necessarily getting a negative vibe? Like there's nothing negative about the person. There's nothing that, you feel drained around them or anything like that. But maybe you're just getting nothing. Maybe it's just a complete neutral that they add nothing to your life, but they take nothing from your life. They're just there like a blob.
Yeah.
Like what what about those friends? What about those friends where you kind of look at them and you go like, you don't really
Take it or leave it.
serve my life at all, but you're not taking anything away. So I'm not going to bother with having this conversation with you to say like, I don't really think that we serve each other anymore. You just let them exist. And every once in a while, maybe you answer a text message, or maybe once in a while you do a like, hey, how are you? And you do like the weird catch up thing. And that's just kind of it.
I find that those relationships just phase out. The ones that don't have any substance to them, they just phase out. I don't even usually have to give them a lot of thought. It might occur to me like, oh, why am I meeting that person for lunch again?
Right.
Like I might get more out of reading a book for lunch instead of going out with them.
It depends on where you're going for lunch. Because I'm a fan of food. So sometimes I might go like, oh, it's kind of worth it for the lunch. But
I'd rather just go to lunch with you, Robin, than that person.
Exactly.
I think if you're not getting something out of it, then it is a waste of time. I mean, they might not be toxic, but I think it's a waste of time if you're not getting something out of it.
So tell me a story. When's the last time you broke up with a friend?
No, Derek, we're not talking about friends with benefits.
I mean, you may have to break up with a friend with benefits too. Like you may have to say, we're friends with, but that's a friend, right? Like let's say you have
Isn't that really a romantic relationship?
I guess it is, but maybe you're getting into like a real relationship and you go like, hey, we're friends with benefits. We can no longer have those benefits. And now that we can no longer have those benefits, I really don't want you as a friend anymore. Like the benefits were that was the jam,
Yeah.
And now that we can't have those benefits because maybe I'm in a relationship where I no longer want to engage in those benefits, we can't be friends either. I mean, it's kind of a friend breakup.
Yeah, I feel like that could be a whole other episode.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe we need a friends with benefits episode.
Maybe we do. I don't know if I want to divulge all that now.
We are looking for a guest for our friends with benefits episode because neither Christina nor I will tell any stories about friends with benefits. So you need to be willing to come on and tell your stories so we can have the episode.
My grandma watches this sometimes.
Well, hey, Grandma.
Although my mom told me the last episode she fell asleep, so I guess it wasn't very engaging for her.
I think your grandma's going to be the gauge of like how interesting our episodes are. If Grandma falls asleep, we need to do better. Like
we need to up our game.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're watching, hi, Grandma. So you asked me, how do I go about this breakup thing? Yeah. I'm new at it, mind you, because I back in the day when I was young and immature, some people might say still a little immature.
Yeah.
You would just, especially as girls, you would just have a big blowout fight and that would be the end of it.
Right.
Like you just knew that it was over. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now as I'm older, more mature, I'm, like I said, more deliberate. I guess that's the word of the day for me. I'm more deliberate about who's around me and who do I want to spend time with. I will give an example. There was somebody that I was very good friends with who really dumped me, but
what did you do, Christina?
I'll tell you what I did, but it was kind of a blessing. Mm-hmm. I always say that when people break up, even romantic relationships too, it really shouldn't come as a big surprise to the other one. Right? Like you had to know there was trouble in paradise, right? So that's how it really was with us. She lives in California and we've known each other a really long time. And we both have big personalities. And I would go visit her in California, which I enjoyed doing, but without really giving a lot of detail, because I don't want to just intentionally badmouth her, we weren't getting along.
Okay.
There were just things that were happening between us when I would go visit and we would get into these big fights. And I actually started to think, why do I go out there? And I had a couple of other friends who would call them my frenemy. Like, oh, you're going to visit your frenemy? Like, why do you go out there? I don't understand why, because all you do is complain when you get home. But she actually broke up with me. And it is kind of a funny story. She had a cat and she was very attached to her cat. She was single and her cat had something wrong with it. It was dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing on some of this stuff because she never really gave me an explanation. I was supposed to go visit her like within 2 weeks, and the cat got really ill. So one night she sent me a text message and said, maybe now is not a good time for you to come visit. I'm really preoccupied with the cat and blah, blah, blah. Well, I never saw the message. And the next day I was on a conference call and I see this message pop up from her saying, I think our relationship has run its course, blah, blah, blah. I don't even remember what it said, but it was basically a breakup email. And so I clicked on it like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And that's when I saw the other message that she had sent. So to this day, I still believe that she broke up with me because she didn't feel that I was concerned enough about her cat. So some of my friends call her the cat lady. But it was a blessing because it just did seem that the relationship was a bit toxic.
Well, do you think perhaps, because when I think about a friend breakup and you say that when we're young and immature, sometimes like we just have a big blowout fight and then the friendship is over.
Yeah.
Do you think that sometimes maybe as adults we hide behind that a little bit and maybe we pick a fight about something like a cat? And that's like kind of the catalyst for us because we
no pun intended.
Look at me. The catalyst, yes. But we don't want to have like that hard conversation of, you know what, I really just don't want to be friends with you anymore. I don't think that this relationship is serving either of us and it's run its course. Because I know I've heard stories of people that like they break up with friends and the story is ridiculous. Like,
yeah,
you know what the fight is about? And they go like, well, we got in this huge fight because, I invited her over for pizza, but she brought like one pizza and she knows I don't eat dairy. And I said, I'm done with you. And they're kind of like, you broke up over like a lactose intolerance. Like that's what we broke up about. But I think that really there were other underlying issues and like you just picked something stupid to have a fight over.
No, I think you're right about that. Yeah, because we were a little rocky anyway.
Right. So like for her, I'm going to send this message about my cat and tell her I don't want her to come. And then if she doesn't respond, like sometimes it's a little test. Like, let me see how much if she doesn't respond about my cat, then we can't be friends. And you didn't respond. And I just want to throw it out there into the universe. If you're ever if you're ever testing me by text message, I'm going to fail. Like, I need you to know that because half the time I don't see the text message. And when I do, the other half of the time I respond in my head. Like I'll look at the text message and I go, oh my God, her cat, that's so sad. I can't believe that her cat is ill, poor thing. And I don't actually type that. I say it in my head.
Yeah, you do that to me sometimes.
There are many times I'm sure that you've sent me a text message and you're kind of like, are you going to answer it? I've answered you, Christina, just so you know.
Okay.
You in my head. So I think that, that may have been her way of breaking up with you, but making it your fault.
I never thought about that before, but that does sound totally feasible. And you're probably right.
And I agree with you, Derek. Some friends are assholes. And that's why I think you need to break up with them. So, if you have a person in your life and they're just not serving you or they're bringing you down, like sometimes we're friends with people for no reason other than we've just been friends with them for so long.
Yes.
This has been my friend for 20 years. So how can I not be friends with her? Because we've been friends for 20 years. Well, you're not friends because she's an asshole. Like, what about that?
Well, are you really friends if you're not enjoying your time together, if you can't confide in them and feel not judged? Or, maybe we should go through the types of things that lead us to not want to be friends with somebody.
All right. So what makes you decide I don't want to be friends with this person anymore? Like, what?
I think for me, it's consistently seeing over a period of time that we're not enjoying our time together. And it's not just like you said, like, I don't get anything out of it, but when it's toxic, when it's gone the other direction, and I don't feel like I can be myself around them. I feel like I'm being judged or criticized, or I don't feel like I can be honest. I feel like I have to censor myself around them. Or when I don't feel like they ever really take an interest in me. We all have that friend. We go out to lunch with them and they talk about themselves the entire time. And then it's like, oh, look at the time. We got to run. And you're like, okay, well, I'm doing fine, just in case you were wondering.
Yeah.
We'll have that person.
We do all have that person. And I think that like we have that friend that talks about themselves. We have the friend, I'm going to use air quotes. We have the friend who is like the user, who, whenever you hear from that friend, it's because they need something or they want something or there's something that you can do for them. And then you don't hear from them otherwise, Yeah. So I think that friend, that's a good reason to break up with someone, when you just realize that the friendship is really just at that person's convenience. It's like, hey, I think, Robin could do X, Y, and Z for me. So let me give Robin a call. And then you always get like the bullshit intro of like, how have you been? And how is everything? And you're just waiting. You're like, I know you want something. I'm waiting. I've been great. How are you? Yep. Family good. How are you? Oh, here comes the favor. Got it. But do you actively break up with them?
Okay. So the how. I would say that there's only been a small handful of people that I actively broke up. I really would just phase them out.
So when you actively broke up, number one, there are relationship rules, right? Like if you're in a romantic relationship, you would never break up by email or text.
Well, I wouldn't.
Yeah, right.
Some people do that.
Would. But so in a friendship breakup, is it appropriate or is it permissible to break up by email or text? To send a text and say, I don't think that this friendship is serving me.
I don't know. I'm not totally offended by that. Are you?
I'm not. But I also think that we are living in a text world right now. Like, I think if you would have asked me this 10 years ago, I would have said, no, you would sit down, you would invite that friend to lunch, and you would just say, look, here's what's happening. But I think that now we're in a world where text is so appropriate that, it's kind of okay.
Well, not too long ago, I got into an exchange with a friend that became sort of like an argument. And I had kind of felt like this friendship was coming to a close anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I was not getting like good things out of it anymore. And I just saw that as an opportunity to just say, I don't think that, this is working anymore.
So I think that we talked about all of these different reasons. And there was one that came up in the comments about breaking up with people, and one that neither you nor I really know much about. But I hear a lot about friendships ending when someone gets married.
Yes, that's interesting. Well, we all have had that friend when we were much younger that it's whenever they were dating somebody, they were absent. They were nowhere to be found. They would just disappear. But then when they broke up, all of a sudden they were back and they wanted to go out, right? Did you have friends like that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it phased out a bit once I got older. Like younger, it happened all the time because people were just all about the man or all about the woman. But I think it's interesting because the story came up where, from Flip, where a relationship changed a bit because he got married and that person was trying to get him to do things that were not necessarily conducive to his marriage. And then I heard another story yesterday when I was just talking to someone about this topic, about friend breakups. And that story also was surrounding a marriage where, she had a very good friend. And then once he got married, that friendship ended because she didn't get along with his wife.
Yeah, I've heard that story too.
So, I think there are two different dynamics to it where it's like maybe you don't get along with the new spouse, but then there's also, the dynamic that Flip talked about where you realize like maybe once you've gotten married, it's not that you're disappearing because you're in your married life, but your life is just different. Like you have
Yes.
kids, you have a wife, you're not like, if you have a friend who's saying like, oh, it's fine, let's go to the strip club. And that's just not your life anymore. Or it's fine, like I have this girl I can hook you up with. And you're kind of like, dude, I'm married. Like, why are you trying to like hook me up with somebody?
Yeah, well, Flip says that his friend was constantly trying to get him to do things that aren't a good look for married guys. I think that comes down to respect. If I was single and I used to go troll the bars for guys with my friend, and then she became attached, married, or has a boyfriend, I would respect that she's no longer in the same place. I'm not going to expect her to still go trolling the bars with me looking for guys when she has a boyfriend. You have to respect that. So I would say that this friend, whoever it was, wasn't respecting Flip.
But I think that's what it comes down to, right? Like, it's not that you're married, is that you have a friend who doesn't respect you and your boundaries and what your life is now. Like, that is very disrespectful. If that friend knows you're married and they're still trying to get you to do single stuff.
Well, it's selfish because they still want the lifestyle that they had with Flip, for instance. And now Flip's married, but doesn't want that lifestyle that he used to have. And I think sometimes friends get jealous. I actually dated a guy a long time ago who he used to hang around with these two guys all the time, his buddies. And unfortunately, he also used to pay for everything. He used to go out drinking and he would pay for everything because he made more money than them. Mm-hmm. That's another conversation too. And when I started dating him and he wasn't around as much, they didn't like that. They were very rude to me. It was a difficult situation. They did not like me. And unfortunately, the guy really sided with them. Mm-hmm. And it was I could tell he was trying to juggle both of us and make everybody happy, but you just can't do that. You have to decide what's appropriate when you're in a relationship. So that relationship didn't last long at all. And that's fine. It was for the best. But that was a situation where he picked his friends. He wanted the lifestyle.
So basically what happened is that by dating you, you upset the apple cart.
Yes.
And they were like, we don't like this anymore. Like, you're hanging out with this Christina chick. You're not paying for our drinks.
Yeah.
They're expensive. I get it. Drinks are fancy,
Yeah.
So I think that maybe that's part of it. My confession is I have never actually actively broken up with a friend. I've always taken the pansy way out. Always. Like, I have never sat down and said, this friendship is no longer serving me. And I don't really think it's serving you either. And maybe it's best that we just part ways. Like, we don't necessarily need to be friends anymore. And the reason I say that's the pansy way is because I'll usually just go the route of like the fade out, or, maybe I'm not available as much anymore. Yeah. Or it's, can you like meet up? And I'm like, I'm so sorry, I just can't. But I think that what's interesting is that a lot of times when you execute the fade out, and maybe this is just me, like, let me know if this says something about me, because it might, you kind of realize that you were the only person holding that relationship together anyway.
Yeah.
You fade out and all of a sudden you stop calling and you stop texting. And then you realize like they don't really call you or text you either. So, maybe mutual fade out.
Yes. And then another example of that is when you've got the friend who lives kind of far away, but you always have to go to them.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of get that sometimes. And I don't want my friends who have kids to think that I'm talking about them or complaining about them. But there are times when you get the people that have kids and they think that because they have kids that you should always be the one going to them. And which I don't mind because I like to see the kids. And I
Right.
get it that it's just harder for them, especially if they're little. It's harder for them to, pack up all the kids and all that stuff that goes along with the kids
Right.
and, bring them around. But it is nice when you see them make some effort sometimes, to come see me. Like if I live an hour away or something, like, come to my neck of the woods once in a while.
Here's what I will say. I will say that it makes a difference to me driving versus flying. So if I have a friend who lives far away and that friend has kids, I feel like I kind of give the friend a little bit of a pass, because if you need to schlep the kid up here, like that's an airline ticket, that's,
Oh, definitely.
that's
Yeah.
lodging, because it's very different if, you're not going to be able to put up the whole family in your house or whatever the case
Oh,
may be.
yeah.
I think that it's different if the person lives far away, meaning like driving, but they're always like, come here. Like you can jump in your car and drive to my house, or you can jump in your car and like, meet me halfway somewhere. I think that that's a little bit different when there's a driving situation. Like if I have a friend who lives flying distance, I kind of sometimes give a pass. Where I'm like, it is easier for me to jump on a plane and come see you than it is for you to jump on a plane and come see me.
Oh yeah, and I don't need an excuse to get on a plane. And go so and again, I don't want anybody who's my friends who have kids watching this thinking, oh, that's why she doesn't come over anymore. I would say that those people that have done that to me, I'm really not friends with anymore at all in any way, because it goes back to something else you said. I just felt that the relationship was very one-sided. Right. It was like, okay, well, if you're going to come to my house and I don't have to, put myself out in any way, then I'm happy to have you over. But the rest of the time, we're not talking, we're not seeing each other.
So do you have a preliminary conversation before your friend break up to let them know that their behavior is bothering you?
That's a good question. I have definitely gotten better in recent years about communicating with somebody when they've done something or said something that upset me, because I know that if I did that to someone, I would want them to tell me, because I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm not intentionally hurting my friend's feelings. So I would like for them to tell me if I did or said something that offended them so that I could correct it. And so yes, if it's something, I guess it depends like where it falls on the continuum of offensiveness level. If it's something like really small, I'm probably just going to let it go. But if it's something that continues to be repetitive, then I will say something, but I'll be careful about the way I say it.
I think it comes back to, I think ultimately we're always kind of looking for an out. Like, I think that if you didn't want to be friends with that person anyway, you probably wouldn't have the preliminary conversation, and that would be your out of like, you know what? I'm tired of the bullshit and I'm done. Like, I'm not coming down anymore. I'm not calling you anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. Whereas if you have a really good friend and it's a relationship that you do want to protect, then I do think you probably would. Like, I know that as an adult, I've had conversations with friends where, that friend has done something that's bothered me, or I've done something that's bothered them. And I appreciate it. Like, I recently had a friend say that I did something that bothered her, and it wasn't intentional. Like, she was really, she was misunderstanding my intentions because of, how I came off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I come off in a certain way sometimes. So, if you say something to me, I'm like, okay. And my okay may sound like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just an okay. Like, I might be like, all right.
Yeah.
And I'm on to the next thing. But I know that I, as a grown-up, and I might not have felt this way as a teenager, but I really appreciated her kind of saying, hey, you said this, and this is how I interpreted it. And that kind of bothered me. You know what I mean? I appreciated that she came to me as opposed to just being pissed off at me for something I didn't mean. Like, if I didn't mean it that way, and that gave me the opportunity to say to her, I didn't mean it that way. Here's how I meant it. Here's how I feel about it. And, sometimes this is how it can be. But like, I think that if she really just didn't want to be my friend anymore, she could have taken that, not said anything to me, and been like, you know what, I'm not talking to Robin anymore because, she's a bitch. Oh, thanks, Lauren. My hair looks awesome. Thank you.
Of all of the comments we've gotten.
Yeah, that's the one that we need to talk about. Thank you, Lauren.
Robin, your hair looks awesome, and so does yours, Tina.
Yeah.
That's for the people listening on the podcast. Thank you, Lauren.
Yes, and for the record, I noticed your hair. I was like, oh, she did a little bump. And
thank you. I did have a blowout today. I went to Dry Bar.
Got it. All makes sense now.
Yes. Thank you for noticing my efforts.
I, on the other hand, before I came onto the show, went to the mirror and said, oh, I had curls. Okay, and they're gone. Like that. That's what I thought to myself at the end of the day.
That's what I thought too this morning. I had curls and now they're gone.
Yes. Well, it's fine.
Well, I want to add something to what you said. Okay. I think the amount of effort, because what you said, sitting down, explaining that your feelings were hurt, whatever, that takes effort. And those aren't comfortable conversations. Nobody wants to have those conversations. So I think your willingness to engage in those kinds of difficult conversations really depends totally on how much you value the friendship.
Yeah.
Because if you value it greatly, you will make that effort. If you don't value it much and it's not adding much to your life, you're not going to go through all that effort.
Well, I think that I've had friends that have gotten upset with me over something that was like so minor that I do sometimes think, like, if we've been friends for, let's say, 20 years, and you think that I've done something that's that offensive to you and that I meant to be offensive to you, like you're not giving me the benefit of the doubt, I kind of look at that as like, well, you're, again, just looking for an excuse not to be my friend anymore, because you would know me better than that. Like, I haven't changed that much in 20 years that you would think all of a sudden I'm like this malicious person, that I'm doing this horrible thing to you, as opposed to you coming to me and saying, hey, you did this and it was kind of shitty. And I go, oh my God, I didn't mean to. Like, that's not what I meant, So
yeah,
I don't know. I think sometimes it's kind of like your California friend is kind of like the cat lady. When those sorts of things happen, I think that that's a blessing. Like, I think that that's just someone who's probably just not meant to be in your life because they're trying to protect themselves for such a stupid reason.
It was a blessing. And I have to say, when I would go visit her, I would only stay for a couple of days, which everyone would always say, why do you only stay there for like 3 days? It's almost not even worth flying out there. And the reason was because I couldn't handle her for more than a few days.
Yeah.
Like, it would just eventually grate on my nerves that I had to leave, which was, huge red flag. Like, why are you going out there? I have to say, I think maybe deep down what I realized later is I was just going because we did have fun. Yeah. I liked going out to California.
Yeah.
So now I need a new friend who lives in California.
You could go to California without visiting a toxic friend. Like, you could just go.
Yeah. Go to California, right?
Right.
That sounds awful, but.
So how did you meet this friend?
She was my college roommate.
See, I feel like that there's something to be said for that, because you were kind of thrown together in a circumstance where you went to college. This is somebody that you roomed with. And it's almost like those are the people that maybe you just felt like you needed to maintain that friendship, and maybe you just didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I did get some good things out of the relationship, but the things that were bad were really bad. I think I was actually explaining that to somebody recently, that, it's not like this person has really wonderful qualities, and they're really wonderful. But the bad ones are really, really bad. I can't deal with them.
So here's a conundrum that we might fall into. What happens when you have a friend that you definitely give more in the friendship than you receive, but you feel, and maybe this is just like you thinking that you're the best thing since sliced bread, and maybe you're not, but you feel that you add a benefit to that person's life, and maybe you're just doing a nice thing by staying around, but you don't really get anything.
That's interesting.
Like, have you ever had a friend who, like, for example, didn't have any other friends? Like, you're their only friend. So you may have other friends and you may have other people you can hang out with and that you can talk to when things go wrong. But like that person, you're all they have. So you're kind of like, well, I don't want to pull back, even though I don't really get anything from this relationship. Because who else do they have? Not a problem.
You know what? I'm not responsible for anybody else's happiness. I'm responsible for mine. And that person who has no friends, she's responsible for her own happiness too. So I think it's incumbent on her, not me, to, get out there and find people that she's compatible with and take care of those relationships.
So have you ever broken up with a friend and then like rekindled the relationship?
Well, Cat Lady and I did have a period of time when we didn't talk in several years.
Okay.
And then rekindled things. But I don't think that will happen again.
I'm just wondering because, like, again, I've heard a lot of, I've heard a lot of stories. I probably, elicited a lot of stories because I knew that we were going to be talking about this. But I found it interesting that a lot of times with these friend breakups, there's like multiple breakups. It's almost like a relationship where like you try to break up with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, and then you get back together, and then you break up again, and then you get back together.
Yes.
I've heard of this happening where even in a friend breakup, you have this huge falling out, you don't talk, and then maybe you start talking again for some like crazy reason, like, oh, I found out that, you had the Rona and I want to check on you and go, oh my God, you have the Rona? That's insane. But like you feel the need to talk to that person again. And then, you realize I stopped talking to you for a reason.
Yeah, I think that's how I feel now, being older and wiser.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if our relationship ended, and this is how I feel about Cat Lady, and why I would never rekindle that is because it's happened twice now. I think she's a very interesting person. She's very smart, and that was probably the glue that held us together. But, the bad stuff was bad. And I just don't want it in my life anymore. And obviously she doesn't either. And I don't see the point of her rekindling anything because she's not different and I'm not different. So nothing's going to be different. I don't think that people really change that much over time. And whatever that dynamic was, it would come back again. That's my feeling.
So what about ending a friendship, maybe not because your friend has changed, but maybe just you've changed? Like, I think I have friends that maybe I've just legitimately outgrown them.
Yes. I have friends like that. Some people from high school and college that the relationships just phased out because I just didn't feel like we had anything in common. Like if I had met them now, we wouldn't become friends. Our lives are so different.
Do you ever wonder about, because I've actually wondered about this recently. I know that sometimes, especially when I'm extraordinarily busy, I can be very self-absorbed. So I then think to myself, like, there could be periods in my life that I'm really not being a good friend because I have so much going on in my life that when I do speak to a friend, then, it's like, oh, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm doing this and this is going on and that's going on and this is all crazy. And oh my God, look at the time I have to go, but let me call you back. And I'm sure the friend on the other end is like, well, she's an asshole. You know what I mean? So I think that in a way, I hope that those friends would give me a little bit of a pass, which is why sometimes I give people a pass. Because I know that sometimes maybe you have ebbs and flows of just being an asshole.
I don't think you can judge anyone by any one thing, like unless it's so big, like they slept with your boyfriend or something crazy like that. Then yes, you should judge them for that.
That's good. Yes.
I think you have to kind of evaluate the relationship on a whole. Like,
Mhm.
are they always doing things like that? Like, not returning phone calls and not making time for you and not asking you how you're doing. Are they doing that more often than not? Or are they just going through something, like maybe they're busy at work? For us, maybe you have a trial, or you're doing renovations on your house. And I know that it's just hard for you right now to make time.
Yeah.
My friend Lauren had a good point. Equal effort and equal interest in the other person's life is really important, which is something that we're talking about. I recently departed from someone who dominated most conversations. It was draining. So I think, those are examples of a relationship that when it's like that consistently, that is what makes you start to question the relationship.
I wonder though, Lauren, was that friend always like that? And the reason I ask is because if that friend is always like that, maybe that's just, his or her personality. But if not, I wonder if it would have made a difference to say, like, hey, we've been here for 20 minutes and you haven't asked me about me yet. And kind of see if the friend's like, oh, well, crap, I really haven't. You know what I mean? Or whether the friend's kind of like, what are you talking about? And just goes on about that same behavior. It kind of just makes me wonder,
Well, I know who she's talking about. And I think there had been some discussions about certain things.
I think too, Lauren, just so you know.
What?
I said, I think I know who you're talking about too, Lauren.
Oh, I can't wait to hear when we turn the live recording on.
But I mean, the reason I ask that is that, I think that we take so much time to consider a romantic breakup of like, do I really want to do this? Is this the right thing?
Yeah.
Usually before you break up with a significant other, you have multiple conversations and perhaps conversations ad nauseum about this needs to be different. That needs to change. This needs to change. I'm unhappy about this. I don't like when you behave this way. It makes me feel this way when you do this. And you may have these conversations for months and months. And I'm wondering if the friend breakup gets that same benefit of having multiple conversations about, hey, I'm tired of you always dominating the conversation when we go out. I have things that, I'd like to talk about, or I would just like to see that you have some interest in my life by even asking what's going on with me and seeing if the behavior changes. Or can you go to like friend counseling? Like you can go to can you go to say, you know what? I really want to save this friendship and I think that we should go to counseling. I think if a friend said this to me, I'd probably laugh in her face.
My gut reaction is that we just don't put the same level of effort into our friendships as we do romantic relationships. I don't think that's going to change. And I don't even know that we should. If I have to go to friend therapy, I don't know. I don't see the point of that. It's time to end things. It's like, why are we friends? We're not friends. If we have to go to therapy to be friends, we're not friends.
But can't you say the same thing then about a romantic relationship? Like if we need to go to therapy to fix our relationship, then maybe like this just isn't a good relationship.
I think there are times when, yes, that is true too. But I think we value romantic relationships a little more, maybe a lot more than we value friendships. And we expect to get more from a romantic relationship, which also means then that we have to put in more to the relationship.
Well, Derek says that his expectations for basically for humans in general is just his expectations are very high. And he says far too high, so that he's in a constant state of being let down. So my question is, maybe you need to change your expectations. Maybe if you know your expectations are too high, you need to lower your expectations. Or do you think that you just need to find better friends?
I think, at least for me, obviously I can only speak for myself. I'm just taking inventory of how I feel when I'm around people. I'm not sitting there like, oh, I'm having lunch with Robin. How am I feeling right now? I'm not doing that. But you just know, do you leave dinner with somebody feeling really good? Like,
Right.
what a nice, like, you and I had dinner together the other night. Wonderful time.
A pig. That's how.
Yeah. Well, the food doesn't hurt either. But I left feeling good about our conversation. We had a really nice time. We laughed. I felt a little bit closer to you, every time we have another dinner date. I think that's how it's supposed to feel. But if I would go out with you and every time be like, God, something was just off with Robin. Like, I feel this tension. And, she kept interrupting me, or, she really didn't ask me anything about my opinion about anything. And do you know what I mean? Like, things like that, when you start noticing that that's the relationship, that's how it is. Like this one friend that I had recently, that's how it was. It was always about her. It wasn't about me. That's just how it was. And that was always the explanation that I would give myself. Is, that's just how she is. But then after a while, that excuse got old. And it's like, no, I don't care that that's how she is. The relationship shouldn't be like that.
So then maybe the difference is when you're looking at when to break up with a friend, like when you're making that evaluation versus when you break up in a romantic relationship. I feel like, friends are supposed to make you, maybe I'm going to be pie in the sky, but go with me. I feel like friends are supposed to make you feel good most of the time, if not all the time. Like, even if you have a rough conversation with a friend and, maybe that friend is calling you on your shit, or maybe you're being, a little bit introspective about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're like, the friend's kind of like, let's like dive into all this stuff going on with you. Maybe it's a tough conversation. It's still a conversation that's for the better and to make you better. And you're not necessarily going to leave feeling worse about yourself or, or feeling down per se. You may feel like, hey, I have some work to do because this friend called me on some stuff, and that's what friends do. And I need to deal with that. But I feel like if you leave every conversation feeling like crap, that's probably the red flag right there. Or every encounter feeling like crap, that's the red flag. Unless you're just a person that feels like crap all the time, then maybe you need to assess yourself and why you always feel horrible. But if you know that you feel great around friend A, but you feel crappy around friend B, then it's probably friend B.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like the older I get, I have less energy. I'm not putting a lot of effort into a friendship. If it's not happening naturally, I'm just not putting any effort into it. Like, that doesn't mean like I have good friends that if there was a misunderstanding, of course I would try to clear that up. But if it's just this constant struggle, I'm over it.
So basically, we're just of an age now where if you're not serving, and I don't want to say serving it in a bad way, but I have a saying that I say all the time, and it kind of sounds weird. But I say to people all the time, if you're not for me, you're against me. And like, it sounds like a little harsh, kind of like, if you're not team Robin, then go F yourself. Like, I'm not saying that. I kind of am. But I think that what I'm saying is like, if you're not in a situation where you're bringing good things to me, and I know that I have to do that too. It has to be reciprocal. Like, I have to bring good things to you too. But if you're not pulling me up, you're bringing me down. I don't
have to think about that.
I don't know that I believe in neutrality anymore. And maybe this is just because like I'm getting too old for it. But I'm kind of like, if you're just there, and kind of what we talked about at the beginning of the conversation, if you're just like a blob in my life, like you're just very neutral, you're not doing anything, and anything could just be that when I have a conversation with you, I laugh my ass off and I feel great. That's enough. I'm not saying that you have to like come in and say, let me, work on a marketing campaign for your law firm. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you got to add something. And if you're not, then you need to go. I think that's what it is.
I think that you also get different things from different people, right? Like, we've all got the friend that's super funny and you have a blast when you're with them. But maybe they're not that smart. So you're not going to have an intellectual conversation with them.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I've got some friends that they like to go out and, drink and try new foods. Like, you like to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
But then I have other friends, they have like a toddler's palate and they want chicken fingers and French fries. I'm probably not going out to dinner with them. I get other things from that relationship. And there's friends that love to travel and I'll travel with them. But then other people that not interested. So you can sort of pick and choose the things you do with your friends. And when you have a romantic relationship, though, you want them to be everything all rolled into one.
You are expecting an entire package. It's funny because as you were saying that, that's exactly what I was thinking, is that you have the ability to kind of have like a polyamorous friendship sort of thing going. Like you can have different friends that serve different purposes. Whereas you can't do that in a romantic relationship. Like you can't in a romantic relationship say, well, you're my boyfriend and you're super smart, but you're not funny. So I'm going to go find a boyfriend that's funny. And then I'm going to go find a boyfriend that likes to travel. And then although some people do that, maybe that's a topic for another episode too. If you have multiple partners, get at us. We'll do an episode about that. I want to hear about your life, about, all of that. But anyway, with friends, you can do that. You can have the friend that's like, this is my good time friend that I go out with. And this is the friend that I just sit and talk about books with. Like,
yeah. We have the friend who will talk about, sex in graphic detail. Mm-hmm. And then you have the other friend that you just don't go there because, they don't want to talk about it.
I talk to all my friends about sex and graphic detail. So if you're my friend, that's just what you're signed up for.
But I know that I have some friends that don't really talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, and you have to respect that too. If certain people just, that's that topic is kind of, off limits for them. I respect that, but I just think that it's more along the lines. I'm not saying I talk about my sex life in graphic detail, but it's more along the lines of like, I'm kind of that person. If you want to come to me and say like, I have this like sex conversation I want to have, I'm here for it. I'm like, all right.
I'm laughing because I'm actually thinking it, like I'm kind of thinking about my friends, and I don't think I actually have many friends that won't talk about it.
Yeah. To be fair, neither do I. I don't think any of my friends are kind of like, I am clutching my pearls that you brought up this topic.
I probably scared away those other friends. You're like,
go
around Christina.
Yeah, but uncomfortable. I don't think she's just so crude. Christina. Yeah, but I think that's what it comes down to, that you can get different things from different friends, which, I think does make the friend breakup a little bit harder, because you're kind of like, hey, unlike a boyfriend, if you're getting rid of, your funny friend, you could probably find another one. But I think that if you have a funny friend that is still adding something, I think we're kind of just getting rid of the people that you're realizing just like add nothing.
Well, what I would like people to take away from this conversation is that I would like to see more people be more intentional and deliberate about their friends and the people that they have around them. Yeah. Because you mentioned that so many people say, oh, well, I've just known them for so long. That's not a reason to keep them around.
Right.
What are you getting from them? Do they encourage you to pursue your goals? Are they helping you pursue any goals? Even if it's just, listening to whatever your big dreams are and encouraging you, that can be enough. Or are they saying, oh, you're too old to, change careers, or you're too this or that, discouraging you in some way. Also, pay attention to who claps when you have wins.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that are supposed to be your friends, and they're not happy for you when you're successful because they have their own drama. Maybe they're jealous. Who knows? It's not even your concern, really. But pay attention to who's happy for you when you have successes.
I have to say, I don't necessarily mean to get complete, I took my shoes off now. I don't
comfortable.
Yeah, I'm putting my legs up. I don't mean to get completely weird and hoo-hoo about this, but I have a friend, and she and I talk about this all the time, that I think, number one, I remember going to see a psychic, with my business partner because we're both like all into that stuff. And I remember the psychic saying to me, and this was like years ago. Well, I think it must be when we just started our practice because we were still partners at that time. But the psychic said to me, there are people that are very close to you that are not for you. And they act like they're your friends, but they're really not your friends. Like they're not rooting for you. And that is all just putting like bad juju in the universe. Like they may not even mean to put the bad juju, but they put the bad juju because of either jealousy, like they don't like what you're doing or how you're doing it. Or, you know, they may not even understand that that's what they're doing. Like on the face, they may say like, oh my God, that's so great. But inside they're kind of like, you know what, fuck Robin. Like, why is she always doing something? Why is she all, you know? So for that reason, what my friend and I talk about is I don't always tell people what I'm doing. Like I don't always disclose everything to everybody because sometimes people can unwittingly put bad juju.
Yes, but you know what? If you have to hold and you, well, I want to preface this: you can keep private whatever you want, right? We have no obligation to tell everything about ourselves to anybody in our lives, but you shouldn't feel afraid to share something with a friend because they're going to be negative about it. Like to me, that would be a red flag. Is if I can't tell a friend, you know, I've started this new podcast and it's going to be the greatest podcast in the whole wide world. You know, I should be able to say that and not feel like, oh, they're going to laugh at me or they're going to tell me that's stupid or there's just going to be like this negative air around it. That person I would question, are they a friend?
But sometimes you don't really know because it's not even a negative air that they're sharing with you. Like they're saying to you, oh my God, Christina, that's great. But deep down inside, they're kind of like, I don't understand.
You can tell when that's not authentic, though.
Sometimes you can't because they don't even know it's not authentic. Like they're like while they're saying that's great, you know, they may have that passing feeling of jealousy that can put that bad energy into the universe. Like one example that I have is such a small example. When I was buying a house, I didn't tell anybody I was buying a house until I bought the house. Like all of a sudden I was just like, it was like a picture of me on Facebook with keys. Like, hey, bought a house. Just because I didn't want bad energy of like, why does she need a house? Why does she think that she should go get a house? You know, she's just out in the streets and being single and like, oh, look at me, big lawyer buying a house. Like people don't always verbalize that to you, but they think it and they put it in the universe and then the universe messes you up. So that's my hoo-hoo of, you know, my weird, what we put in the universe thing. Because sometimes I think that everyone's not for you. Now, obviously, if you find that person's not for you, that's a great reason to break up with that friend.
Yeah, I have to spend more time thinking about what you said. If they're not for you, are they against you? I have to think about that.
That's just
right. You might be right about that. So again, I hope that people will take an inventory of who's around them. And there's that saying, I'm going to screw it up. I forget exactly how it goes, that you are the product of the top 5 people that you're around.
Yes, like I have influencers.
And, you know, who are those people? And what are they saying to you? What are they whispering in your ear? Are they encouraging you? Are they discouraging you? And how are they living their own lives?
Yeah.
Are they doing big things with their lives? Are they optimistic and positive? And do they have goals and, you know, they're going after the things that they want? Because that's a great influence on you.
I'm trying to look for a quote that I had in my phone and I can't find it, but it had something to do about the people you were around. But I think that what you were saying about that top 5 people, we've had that conversation before. And I don't know if it was from a book or something, but about like, if you really want to look at what you're doing, like you look at the people that you spend your time with and what they're doing. And it really does tell you a lot about who you are and what your belief systems are when you look at the people you choose to spend your time with. So I think to punctuate what you were saying is that you need to choose you do need to choose those people wisely, because that says so much about you and so much about what you're going to do and what you're going to accomplish and what your life is going to look like just based upon the people that you choose to be around. So I think it's kind of a bigger decision maybe than we think it is.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole idea of having masterminds, is that you surround yourself with other people that are actually further ahead of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That are doing big things.
You play tennis with somebody who's better than you.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, what is that saying too? That if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah. I'm always the smartest person in the room. I'm kidding. I'm never the smartest person in the room. But I agree.
That's not true.
I agree with that. Like if you're kind of like the best of the best in that room, you're kind of like, I need better rooms. Like I need some people that are going to push me too.
Yes. Who inspires you to do better and to be better?
Yes.
Because when you see other people doing really big things, you think, well, unless you have an inferiority complex, you think, well, I can do that. I could do that, or maybe not that very thing, but I could be doing something more with my life too. Those are the kind of people I like to be around.
I think that is a wonderful tip to end this with. Like you just you summarized it wonderfully. Good job, Christina.
Good job, you, Robin. Go, Robin. Go, Robin.
I think we should just hang out with each other and like continue to be each other's cheerleaders because that's what we do.
I'm a cheerleader. I'm going to send you some pom poms.
Yes. No, that was an awesome way to just summarize what we're saying. Yeah. Gotta push yourself to be with people that push you to do better.
Good topic. So here's your homework assignment, kids.
Ooh.
Write down your friends, write down your top 5, who are the people in your universe, and carefully evaluate what they bring to the table.
And
I'm
gonna do it.
If maybe you want to drop them down on the list. Yeah, or cross them off the list.
Yeah, maybe they don't need to be in the top 5. Maybe they're just in the top 10 or the top 15. Or like Christina said, maybe they just need to be crossed off altogether. I think that's a great assignment.
Yeah, so do it.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching and participating and listening to the Shit Talking podcast. We're live on Facebook every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can check us out wherever you listen to podcasts for the replay. See you next week.
Have a great week, guys.